Welcome to the Coast to Coast podcast, brought to you by Play Picks and the Lines. Coming to you from the West Coast, Josh Lander, joined as always by my guy, Nate Weitzer, on the East Coast. We are taking y'all through Monday night's NBA Round 2. Got a couple games on the slate for you. Looking forward to that first game for that Denver-Phoenix series and that second game of Milwaukee-Brooklyn, which will be without James Harden, as Nate will let us know in a minute. If you do need a FanDuel or DraftKings account still, head to fdpicks.com or dkpicks.com. Got a lot of listings and plenty of NBA playoff promos still available in tons of areas around the country. If you do still need to like and subscribe to that page, make sure you do so. We're going to have a gift card opportunity here for you in just a sec. Our last one was Luka's Game 6 PRA. He had a pretty disappointing Game 6, as did the Mavs for the entire series, as we saw. But let's go ahead and start with Monday night's games, Nate, and jump into those lines.
Yeah, Game 2 has the Nets only -1.5 favorites, as the Harden news broke that he will not play in Game 2. Might be out for multiple games with that hamstring pull. The total, which was 239 or 240 for Game 1, dropped to 234. It's now back up to 236. Money line is about even there. The Nuggets are +5 on most sites right now at Phoenix for Game 1, +165 money line. And the total has risen a couple points from 219 to 221 for that game, as we talked about before the weekend. Definitely like overs in any playoff game involving Jokic. But yeah, let's start with that intriguing Eastern Conference semis. Josh, do you see anything going differently in Game 2?
I don't know. It's interesting. We did, we being the proverbial, NBA analysis crew, if you will, and just everybody looking at this series, did a ton of, stat breakdowns, matchup breakdowns that kind of fly out the window a bit when James Harden leaves with 45 seconds, on the clock in the first quarter. At this point, you got to kind of look at potential adjustments for Game 2. I think you saw the obvious adjustment in Game 1 for the Nets was that Mike James got 30 minutes in that game, took a ton of those Harden minutes there, as they had him on the floor with Blake Griffin a lot as well, who had obviously a really nice game. And honestly, when I look at the Bucks, I look at the biggest adjustment being it's playoff time, and you can't be rocking 8 to 9 man rotations at this point, especially against a team who just lost Harden in this game, meaning you now know you're going to see Kyrie and KD a ton, which was the case. Kyrie, was in the game for 44 minutes plus. KD had 40 plus minutes in this game. Both of them put out, especially in the third quarter when they ran away with this game. So I've got to think that guys like Drew Holiday, and Chris Middleton and Giannis, who all played 36 minutes or less in that game, I don't see how that he can give them anything under 40 minutes. There can't be, 4-minute stretches in the second quarter or third quarter where you have one of those big three on the floor, or honestly anything less than 3 of them for most of that fourth quarter. So I think we're going to see that. I do think you might still see a little bit of struggle in terms of the Bucks scoring points, at least more so than I expect the Nets, who, now that they're planning without James Harden, they've had an extra day to actually, strategize around the fact that they know they're getting their points from other places besides James, as well as their ball handling and playmaking, which is where I think you see, as you put it, a very Steve Nash-esque player and Mike James coming in and being able to put up really solid plus minus and have a solid assist turnover ratio. So, some of the things that I think, you can look to target in this game is specifically the points for Brooklyn. I think they'll continue to shoot at the clip that they did, 46% from the field, which wasn't great in Game 1, but 37% from 3. Their role players continuing to have nice games for them as they are able to, feel the pressure lifted with guys like KD and Kyrie taking the point totals off them. So I'm gonna attack Brooklyn's team total here of 118.5. They got close to 115. I think they'll be even sharper on offense this game. I think Kyrie will continue to play above 42 minutes, putting his point total at 28.5 in a nice spot. As I did say, I think Brooklyn will be able to score. I'm also looking at Blake, who I think will be playing some key minutes for them to have over 12.5 points again. And then I do think at least one of that big 3, and I'm eyeing Drew Holiday in this one. He's just a big game player who steps up and responds in big moments. And this is a big moment for the Bucks, who, they've also had a chance to now game plan for a team that doesn't have James Harden. Hopefully they'll be able to look to put a little bit more pressure on guys like KD with Bobby Portis and the like coming in and been playing big minutes for them. But like I said, I don't know what to expect from Budenholzer. I trust that I want to trust that he's going to put in his players in the key minutes and make the adjustments that he's been known to not make in the past. But I don't trust it enough. So I do still feel comfortable more so with Brooklyn's props and totals than I do anything with the Bucks or even the game total for that matter.
Yeah, for me, I don't trust Giannis as a closeout player in the playoffs. I mean, just the way the game is officiated, the way savvy coaches and players like Blake Griffin are able to just wall off his drives. He just has shown time and time again that he's not going to close for you. If Chris Middleton isn't going to be that guy, and he has not had a lot of success against the Nets lately, then the Bucks are screwed down the stretch. That's what we saw in game one. That's why I would look at under 117.5 for the Bucks. The Nets had an underrated defensive performance. I mean, they won 15 of their last 17 home games, and they were 13th in defensive rating and 9th in three-point defense during that span. So not a total fluke that they held Milwaukee to 6 for 30 from deep. A lot of that was inviting Giannis to shoot. And, I mean, the reason the Bucks beat them in the regular season, at least one of those games, was because Giannis hit 4 threes, which is just found money. He's struggling at the free throw line. He's struggling from three. He's struggling to get his good looks in. And that's going to be the key adjustment for Budenholzer is can they use Giannis more as the roll man and pick and roll? I would point to, Drew Holiday's importance in that facilitating. But I just think the Nets at -1.5 is a steal. Just as a side debate, I know I mentioned a couple weeks ago, Kevin Durant is the best basketball player in the world. Someone said, what about LeBron? I don't think that they'd have that comment again after where we stand now. And just taking a Kevin Durant-led team, I don't necessarily mind that James Harden's out. He's just an unstoppable force. And Kyrie and KD, when they're both engaged, are actually great defenders. I mean, Brooklyn just really impressed with their defense. Mike James as well off the bench. Just their depth and defensive awareness was far superior to Milwaukee.
Yep. And before we move too far, as we talk about that game total in general, that is what I'd like to make the gift card opportunity, Nate. So please make sure you are liked and subscribed to the page to be eligible to jump in those comments. Let us know the total points scored in the Bucks and Nets game 2 there tonight on Monday. And we'll look to give that gift card opportunity up to you guys later this week.
Yep. And then moving to game 1 out in Phoenix. As we mentioned, the last 2 meetings between these teams, which were in Phoenix on back-to-back days, went to double overtime and overtime. Obviously, those went over the total. Now 5 of the last 6 meetings with Phoenix have gone over for Denver, and 8 of their last 9 playoff games overall have gone over. Not really surprising, again, when you think about Nikola Jokic and the kind of individual offensive rating he can put up, which was 126 against Portland last round. Before we get into game 1, I think it's an intriguing bet to just take him averaging over 31 points per game on DraftKings in this series. I don't think DeAndre Ayton's going to be able to stop him. He's done a decent job lately, but I think it's more just the Joker making shots that he tends to make in the playoffs. I'm looking for points across the board here, but more specifically, I'm looking for early points. The way the Suns tend to come out hot, they have been ready to play lately, especially at home. They're scoring 31 points per game in the first quarter of their last 3. They scored 30.4 points per game in the first quarter at home. So I'm looking at the race to 25 or 30 points on DraftKings, get you plus odds there. I think the Suns start with a lead there. And obviously for Devin Booker to lead the way. With Chris Paul injured, Booker has just been phenomenal lately, shot 62% to get 77 points in those closeout games against the Lakers. There's just plus 145 odds on him hitting 3 threes in this game, which, he doesn't take a lot of threes, but he just went 8 for 10 from deep in that closeout game. I think maybe he'll feel a little more confident pulling, just becoming a superstar here in these playoffs as we speak. And the combined total at halftime is 112. Both these teams averaged around 60 points per game in the first half. And just that's the way these playoff games have been going. And you saw the Bucks-Nets game go way over in the first half. slow down, hit the under in game one. I think we'll see that trend continue. That's why I prefer taking the over for the first half.
I love that, and I love the live betting aspect of that as well. I did that with the Clippers and Mavs. Waited till halftime till I could get that total up above about 235. That game did still end at about 237 yesterday, but that is a continuous trend. Just another example of exactly what you're talking about. Teams getting a little bit tighter, locking up, and showing some tired legs at the end of the third and into the fourth quarter. As points definitely start to become harder to come by at that point in the game. So I'm definitely going to eye that from a live aspect as well. Maybe wait for that total to get up even a little bit higher before grabbing the under somewhere in the middle of the third or early third quarter. And then the other aspect is I'm going to continue to believe in Devin Booker. The 3 threes aspect, I think you're going to see him be a little bit more of a playmaker, as that was something that was really helpful. And, really tall guy able to pass through defenses and double teams. Interestingly enough, there was a slight viral video that went out of him in a summer league matchup where he got mad that he was getting double teamed during the summer league. People were calling him soft for that. He's throwing out of double teams, finding the open man. Guys like Bridges and Crowder are reaping the benefits of him and Chris Paul now having 2 playmakers on the floor. So I'm actually going to eye Booker's 30 points there. I'm also going to eye his 5.5 assists over on both of those. Over is everywhere for this until you give me a reason not to. I understand both of these teams play at a slightly slower pace for offensive minded and super offensive capable teams, but they're incredibly efficient. And when you have a guy like Jokic, I love his over 31.5 for the series. To your point, I think what we're going to continue to see is we know who's going to have the ball in their hands in the playoffs, right? It's going to be Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and it's going to be Nikola Jokic and Finn, and maybe Monte Morris will be in there for some extra stuff, so you can continue to look at his. But until this series total or game total in this series gets to a point of closer to 230, I'm going to continue to like the over. And it's not just because of how good Jokic is, and honestly how hot Porter kind of came on in that series as well, and then Morris, as we mentioned, is also the fact that when you have guys like Michael Porter Jr. on the floor, you have a weakness on defense right there. Jokic has been able to hold his own a bit more, and Ayton isn't exactly an offensive terror, but they started putting Ayton in the dunker spot, and as guys like Booker and Paul get into the lane, that leaves him wide open to be able to dunk, and shoot about 85% from the field like he did in the first series against the Lakers. Jokic is not an injured AD that he can just bully the way I think Ayton was able to do when AD was in there. But this is going to be something that will really show us what Ayton's capable of, and I don't think it's going to be anything to the tune of slowing down the Joker in this series. He's the only shot they have. I still feel confident that the Suns are in a really great place to be built for these playoffs and can definitely get past this team, and would look to put some money on them at this point for the series. But I do think it'll go 6, and so I'm actually just going to really enjoy this one, especially from a beautiful offensive standpoint. So that is all the time that we have for today. Nate, a quick reminder to like and subscribe to the page. Let us know the total of that Bucks and Nets game to be eligible for a gift card, which we will look to give away as we have more videos continuing to roll on with these NBA playoffs. Until then, and as for tonight, happy betting.